Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you a marbled Sutton Slice. So to begin with, you're going to want to choose a few colours of your choice. I've got here some Primo colours that I've mixed together. This is wisteria, this is purple with a touch of white in it, and this is fuchsia with, it's probably about equal parts fuchsia to equal parts white. Okay, and now we have a bit too much pink here, so I'm just going to take away some of that so we have just about equal amounts of both colours. And then I'm just going to rip them into strips. Like so. And you would repeat for all the other ones. And this is so that we can create our marble. There we go. Then just take those, and it doesn't matter too much what order you pop them in, just try to vary it. Just stack them on top of each other like so. Okay, and there we're just about done. Squish that together. Okay, and while we're doing that, I just want to talk about one thing quickly. Some of you who have been following my Instagram account will probably recognize this tutorial. I'm just using basically different colors, but I have basically covered this tutorial on Instagram already. So for those of you who are not following my Instagram account, I would highly recommend it because I post videos pretty much daily on there. And although they are fast, it's a nice way to get ideas for quick and easy project tutorials, so I highly recommend checking it out. So anyway, back to the tutorial. You can see that we are marbling this, and it depends on you really how much you want to marble it. I tend to like marbling it quite a bit, but again, it's completely up to you. This is a very free-flowing technique. Don't stress about it all that much. Okay, I think that's good. Then all I do is I squish this back up on itself. Okay. Now I'm just going to bring over the stamp that we're going to be using, and it's cute, this cute little heart one. And I just want to make sure that our marble is within the pattern. Okay, then we're just going to flatten that out. Just going to bring over a roller to help do that. And then I probably am going to run this through the pasta machine on the thickest setting. Okay, and then a couple settings down from that. So this is about the middle setting of my pasta machine. Okay, and it's probably about 1 millimeter thick. Now I'm just going to take my stamp, and for a Sutton Slice you want to be using a flexible stamp. So any silicone stamp should work for this. Then we're going to take this and choose which side you like the best. Personally, I like this side better, so I'm going to place that one face down onto the stamp. And now at this point, I would recommend getting either a wet sponge or a wet rag, like this wet wipe that I have here. And the reason you use this while you're stamping the clay into the texture stamp is because it prevents the clay from sticking to your fingers and therefore lifting up and out of the texture stamp. And so I find it just easier to get a nice texture with this. And generally I will texture it with my fingers first, get it worked into that texture, and then after that I will go over it with a rolling pin. And this is just personal preference. So I'm almost across the texture now. Then I'll use a roller. And again, that wet wipe just acts as a release. Any wet rag will work for this. And you just want to be pressing down nice and hard. You want that pressed into your texture really well. Then I'll lift that up. And then because this is a translucent texture stamp, you can see what's going on the back. So you can see whether you need to press in some areas more. But in general that's pretty good. I might spend a little bit more time texturing it, but in general that's good. Now if you are interested in purchasing this texture stamp or some other cool silicone texture stamps, I do sell them on my Etsy shop, Jessama Design. I have a link in the description below this video. Please do consider checking them out, as it does support this channel in the future. Okay, so I think that should be enough. So now we're going to bring over a flexible blade. I find flexible is easiest, but you can use any blade that you're comfortable using, and we're going to start shaving this. And now I want you to go very slowly at first. And now these scraps will end up looking quite interesting, as you can see here, so you can use that for other projects if you wanted to. I'm just going to, if you find that it's lifting up, you can always just bring over your wet wipe and press it back into place. Just slowly start shaving off that texture. Now if you do miss some areas, all you have to do is just grab a little bit of this clay, and because it's a marble, it might look a little bit out of place, but it shouldn't matter that much. Use the wet wipe to press it back into place, and this is just to prevent it from sticking. And then shave that back over it, and that will have corrected the mistake. And then just continue doing that across the entirety of your step. And you can see how interesting that looks. Okay, and you can see here how it's starting to shape up. So once you get to this point, you do need to be careful, but you need to go over the texture and just make sure that you have got everything off of the raised parts of the texture. You only want the parts that are in the actual indented part of the texture to be left. So this means going over and just shaving off really thin bits of clay, as you can see here, so that you clean up that surface. There we go, and we're just about done. Okay, then you want to just pick up these pieces along the side, like so. Okay, just getting that out the way. Alright, and there we go. Now what you can do is you can use your wet wipe to wipe along the surface to get rid of any clay that's on the surface, but I personally wouldn't recommend doing this too much, because it is very likely that you can lift up the clay from the indented sections of the texture. So this part you want to be very careful if you do choose to do this. So it's just a little bit. Alright, now I'm going to lift that up, and there you can see there that we've got most of the pattern. There are some lifted up areas, but in general it's all good. And the reason we had a fair few areas where the pattern lifted up is because this is a very it's a pretty shallow texture and it's got a lot of detail. So if you're brand new to this technique, I would highly recommend using a more a deeper texture with probably a more open pattern, not quite so detailed, as it would be easier. Okay, now I've got a bit of ecru here. It's about 1 part ecru to 1 part white. And what I'm going to do is I am going to roll this out a little bit thinner. So bear with me for one moment as I do that. There we go. And then I'm going to place that down. And then again I am going to use a wet rag to prevent sticking. And I'm going to roll over the surface. Okay, and you want to be pressing pretty hard, mainly because this clay needs to stick to the clay that's in the texture. So roll nice and hard. Okay. And I'm going to lift that up. Okay, and actually you should dry the back first. This will make the next step much easier. Okay, there we go. So then I'm going to place that down, and because you've still got the texture on it, you can press that pretty well. Press around the edges as well to get the clay stuck down onto your tile. By the way, I am using a ceramic tile. That way the clay sticks to it. Okay, and there we go. Now we're going to lift this up. You want to do this very slowly, and the trick is to take the texture and to peel it back on itself as much as possible. You don't want to be lifting up like this, you want to be peeling it back like so. And just watch the whole time, because if any clay sticks in the actual texture, you can always just gently lay it back down. So that you can see I have some over here that hasn't applied to the clay, so you just pop that back down, press on that area, and you can see there that it's lifted out. So just keep an eye on it. Okay, I'm not too concerned about the little pieces, it's mostly if a big piece lifts up. Okay, and at this point I generally swap corners, just because it makes it easier if anything did lift up. And there we go. Very, very nice technique. So now we're just going to trim away that excess clay, and that you can use for another project. But there you go, you can see how nice that looks. And now you would cut out shapes from it, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. But keep in mind, this doesn't actually need to be sealed once it's baked. Once it's baked, you can basically leave it the way it is. You don't have to cover it in any varnish or anything because we have only used polymer clay. So let's bring over some cutters to use. Okay, and I'm going to be using these cute little heart earring donut cutters that I have. And they're actually brand new on the Etsy shop. If you want to check it out, the Etsy shop is Jessama Design. Okay. And I'm just going to choose a nice spot for each of them. Let's see. And just take your time to find a spot. Don't rush. Okay, so I quite like that placement. So then you cut down. Okay, and just press in the middle part as well, and lift up, and you can see there that did stick a little bit. That's not a huge issue. There we go. And that's because I didn't stick the clay down onto a tile as well as I should have before cutting. But that's not a big issue, you can just gently tap that out. There we go. Right, and these parts in the cutter will stick because they're quite small. So all you do is you just can take some tweezers or something along those lines and just hook them out. Okay. I'm just going to lift this up. Okay, and these should lift up pretty easily because we didn't stick them onto the tile. And you might have a little residue around the edges, so all you do is you just tap gently with your finger like so. Yeah. And in these difficult little areas you can just grab a blade and just tap like so. And this means that you won't have to do any sanding. So you can see most of that residue actually stays on the tile. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same for this one. And there we go. So now you would pop these into the oven for about an hour to 40 minutes at your clay's recommended temperature. I was using Primo today, so it would be at that brand's recommended temperature. And then afterwards you can turn it into pendants, you can turn it into earrings. This set is made for earrings because it has a little mirror set, but you could do anything you wanted with it really. And so have fun with it and play around with it. Remember, depending on the texture you use, the colours you use, and also the background colour you use, it's going to look different each time. If you're brand new to the technique, try out using deeper, more open textures, as it is definitely easier to get the Sutton Slice off on those. But if you're already fairly comfortable with it, try out detailed textures. They really come out very nice looking. And if you'd like to support this channel, please do consider checking out the Etsy shop where I sell cutters, textures, mica powders and molds and all sorts of things on there. And also, if you're not interested in tools, do consider checking out my Patreon membership. I release videos on there every single month, and they are much more detailed tutorials than the ones that I post on YouTube. They're much longer projects, more complicated, so if you're looking for more intricate advanced projects, that's definitely the place to check out. And it also helps support this channel in the future. And so if you like this, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.